You know, for as good as the racing in the Xfinity series is, I cannot say the same thing for the drivers. The driver etiquette in this series is really hit or miss, and it's not just the rookies. Some of the veterans that have been in this series for 4 to 5 years are also part of that. I mean, on one hand, you got the squeaky clean guys like Justin Allgaier, mixing it up with some absolute weapons behind the wheel like Austin Hill or Sam Mayer. And that's a recipe for disaster, because it will lead to even the cleanest driver being eventually forced to use their bumper as a way to stand up for themselves and command respect. On paper, it seems like a logical solution. But in practice, what this creates is a snowball effect where the guys behind see that happening and go, okay, all bets are off. He used the bumper on one guy and using it on him. Even if it was not on purpose, like we saw in the truck race with Honeycutt and Corey Heim, for example, the other guys ain't gonna care who started it or who was in the wrong. Context doesn't matter to them. They'll just see what happened in front and go, okay, all bets are off, and they'll be more willing to use their bumper on that guy. Then the cycle will repeat itself. It will go on and on until someone goes too far and straight up dumps a competitor out of the way for the win. Which is exactly what happened in this Xfinity race, unfortunately. I almost wish NASCAR didn't penalize drivers for fighting nowadays, because I really wanted to see Taylor Gray throwing hands on Sammy Smith. That's 2 Mundsville races in a row now. He's gotten dumped out of the lead on a late race restart, because the same thing happened to him with Christian Eckes last year in the truck race in the fall. And Taylor has been, for the most part, one of those guys who you could consider clean. Not squeaky clean by any means, but I cannot remember when was the last time he got into it with someone and it was mostly his fault. If anything, I feel like he's mostly gotten the short end of the stick when it comes to late race shenanigans, and this dating back all the way to 2022 in IRP. I remember him battling John Hunter Nemechek for the win late in that race, and Hunter just roughed him up and spun him out on a restart, and Taylor was rightfully pissed off. And props to him for not landing a single punch on any of those confrontations. Some pushing and shoving, yeah, but he never full-on roughed them up. Now, no one would have blamed him if he did, but the fact that he took the high road regardless shows a lot of maturity out of him, so he gained a lot of respect from me. On the flip side, I cannot say the same for Sammy Smith. It wasn't just his blatantly egregious attempt at a race-winning move, and trust me, that alone was bad. But the fact that he doubled down in one of the most "how will your PR team manage the backlash" post-race interviews is the cherry on top. There were just so many things wrong with that interview, from his attitude to his demeanor, not to mention the things he said about the driver of the 54 and the reasons why he felt he absolutely had to dump him and cause a huge accident on the last lap that affected several guys, including his own teammate Justin Allgaier, who was in position to win the Dash for Cash before that huge crash erupted. So great going there. You didn't just dump a guy for the win, you wrecked yourself, your teammate, and several other guys for no good reason at all. And then you proceed to say things like, oh, he flipped me off when we were under a red flag, or he used the bumper on me on the previous restart, that was uncalled for. He even went as far as saying, oh, he would have done the same thing to me if the roles were reversed. Like, what? Okay, first of all, if getting flipped off hurt your feelings so much that you just felt like wrecking the guy in retaliation, that says a lot about your fragile character. And second, I have never seen Taylor Gray put the bumper on someone to take the lead all race long. The only time he did it was on the final restart to take the lead, and his move was much cleaner than the move that Sammy Smith did to him on the previous restart. So for Sammy to go out and say they're the same thing is outrageous. And the worst part is, Sammy Smith was not the only driver out there on the field making these blatantly terrible moves. His one was the most egregious, don't get me wrong, but all throughout this wreckfest of a race, most of the carnage could be attributed to a couple guys making all these stupid moves. Off the top of my head, some incidents that really stuck out to me. You had Austin Hill just straight up putting the bumper to the back of Carson Kvapil entering turn 1. This happened early in stage 3. Kvapil saved it and the race actually stayed green, but that looked really dirty on the 21's part. And then much later in the race, with around 40 laps to go, he does the same thing to Christian Eckes, entering turn 1 as well after the 16 moved him up for position on the restart. And this caused a chain reaction that also involved Carson Kvapil, but it also caused Austin Hill's teammate Jesse Love to DNF. Sam Mayer, he also caused not one, but 2 incidents in this race. The first one was just him throwing a terrible block on Carson Kvapil on the front stretch. Again, squeezing him all the way down to the inside wall in such a way that it looked like it was done on purpose. And then with 25 laps to go, he put the bumper to the back of Ekes, again just like Austin Hill did to him several laps ago, sending the 16 spinning and causing a massive wreck on the backstretch that brought out the red flag. And of course, Sammy Smith, because the BS he pulled on the last lap was not the only thing he caused, he was the one who actually started everything. On lap 54 of the race, he put the bumper to the back of Corey Day, who, by the way, was making his Xfinity debut and was battling in the top 10 with D8 before this incident happened. Sammy just sent him into turn 1, 17 wheel hop, collected Harrison Burton, and both of them were sent into the wall. And that was the first caution of the race, on lap 54. So we had a 50-lap green flag run to start the race, only for it to become a wreckfest the rest of the way. So Sammy Smith, everyone, he started it, and he made sure to finish it. And it's a damn shame this race turned out the way it did, because there were some damn good storylines coming from the young guns. Every single rookie from this year's rookie class found their way into the top 10 at some point in the race, only for them to get taken out in some way, shape, or form. Connor Silich started on the pole and swept both stages before getting caught up in the carnage after carnage over the course of the day that sent him with a 28th place finish. Carson Kvapil, he started second and ran in the top 5 for a good portion of the race before his incidents with Hill and Mayer sent him tumbling down to 20th in the end. Taylor Gray, I don't think I need to elaborate on how his race ended. William Sawalich, this was probably his best race of the season so far. He was on pace for a top 10, maybe even a top 5 in the first half of the race. But then an incident with Silich late in the race sent him back to 27th. And then Christian Ekes, Nick Sanchez, and Daniel Dye, all three of these guys spent time in the top 10 and scored some stage points. Ekes even managed to lead some laps early on in stage 3, and while 2 out of the 3 wrecked out on the incident that Sam Mayer caused, Daniel Dye did manage a top 10 finish with a 7th place, along with Dean Thompson, who finished 6th, and Chris Wright, who finished 9th. And believe it or not, I don't think Chris Wright was involved in any of those wrecks, which is pretty ironic, honestly. But yeah, this was just a frustrating race to watch. It's only fitting Austin Hill won both the race and the Dash for Cash because he was eligible for that as well. There's no other way this race would have ended. Bullshit race, bullshit winner, and Sheldon could have finished second again as well, go figure. Honestly, it's a good thing Dr. Patrick Staropoli was in the field today, making his Xfinity debut too, because there are a couple of drivers that need to get themselves checked after this race. You know who they are.